While most Americans are drowning in ridiculous rent prices, some people are packing their bags and heading to Alaska basically with empty pockets. They're not tech moguls or lottery winners. They're ordinary folks who got priced out of everywhere else and finally decided, enough, I'm done playing this rigged game. In huge states like California, Texas, and Florida, the math just doesn't work. But Alaska flips the whole thing. No state income tax, no state sales tax. And on top of that, once a year, the state literally sends you a check just for living there. Sounds crazy, right? But can you really move to Alaska with hardly anything? Or is this just another internet myth about some homesteader's paradise? Because let's be real, it looks cheap until you're staring down a $1,200 grocery tab for basics, or you get hit with a $600 heating bill. Today, I'm cutting through the hype. I'm giving you the real 2026 zero-cost game plan, how to get the state to send you over $1,000 each year, which relocation grants actually pay you to move, and the seasonal trick that can score you free rent and meals for half the year. If you're serious about breaking free from the rent trap, you need the full story. No sugarcoating, just the actual numbers behind Alaska's offers. So before you sell your couch and grab a plane ticket, let's hit pause and break it down. If you want a rent solution that really works in 2026, keep reading. Let's dive into these zero rent moves. First up, the 2026 paid to move gigs. This is a total game changer if you're a freelancer, remote worker, or digital nomad. While the rest of the country fights for housing, Alaska has the opposite issue: not enough people. They're actually paying people to relocate. That's where the Choose Ketchikan initiative comes in. THIS isn't a tourism slogan. It's a real, government-sponsored relocation program, and it's designed for people who work online. Usually, offers to move for free sound fishy, but this one's for real. Ketchikan realized if they built out the tech, people would come. Here's how it really works. In 2026, the program gives you an incentive package worth over $2,000. You won't get a pile of cash the moment you arrive. It's set up to help you settle in and actually stick around. But here's the best part. Free gigabit fiber internet for up to 3 months. Ketchikan spent millions on this upgrade. And if you've ever paid for Starlink or dealt with expensive city internet, you know that's a big win. Instantly saves you hundreds. Plus, they'll connect you with local realtors and community guides so you don't get ripped off as a newcomer trying to rent. Not sure if Alaska's your thing? That's where the 2026 workation comes in. This is easily one of the wildest move for money programs anywhere in the country. Here's how it goes. The committee selects a few finalists for a full week of scouting, but you're not just sightseeing like a tour store in the thick of it. Talking with locals, trying out free co-working spaces, checking out healthcare clinics, and meeting the folks actually running things. It's basically a try before you buy situation for relocating. They're not just looking for people to move, they want people to stay. So if you're looking for places that'll pay you to move in 2026, put this one right at the top. But don't just pack your bags at random. You need to be smart if you want to pull this off without spending any money. Applications for 2026 are on a rolling basis, but there are only about 15 to 20 spots each year. You'll have to prove you have a real remote job or your own business that covers your bills. The real hack. Combine this relocation grant with Alaska's tax perks. More on that soon. Move somewhere with no state income tax. Snag the moving bonus, and right away, you're basically giving yourself a 10% raise. Ketchikan is just an hour and a half from Seattle by plane, so you get the remote lifestyle without feeling stuck in the middle of nowhere. Honestly, it's the ultimate hack for anyone who wants to save money and still live somewhere awesome. If you want the 2026 application link, just ask in the comments. Now, hack number 2, the legendary zero rent loophole. If sky-high rent is what's stopping you, this is about to be your new favorite trick. In 2026, the best way to live in Alaska for free isn't buying a place, it's getting a job that includes a survival package. I'm talking seasonal jobs where housing and meals are part of the deal. While everyone else is battling for $2,000 studio apartments, thousands of jobs are open in Alaska's fishing and hospitality industries, and your rent, zero. Same with your food costs. That's 2 major bills. Let's look at the biggest options for 2026. Companies like Leader Creek Fisheries and E-Foods are famous for offering eland packages. And this sounds fake, but it's absolutely real. Lots of these jobs even pay for your flight up, usually from Seattle straight to the job. So you're not paying for airfare, not paying for a room, it's dorm style, but still, and not paying for meals. Every dollar you make, which in 2026 is about $17 to $26 an hour, plus lots of overtime, goes right into your bank account. It's basically a money bubble, since you're spending nothing. You've got two main options here. If you want a more social, hospitality environment, check out Alaska Lodge jobs at places like Whalers Cove Lodge or Bear Creek Lodge. They're hiring servers, housekeepers, and guides for summer 2026. You'll be living on remote islands or up in the mountains, serving guests who spend thousands for a week, but you get to stay for free. The other route, seafood processing, it's harder work, sometimes 12 to 16-hour shifts when the salmon are running, but the money is wild. In Bristol Bay, some people make $5,000 to $8,000 in just a month, all from overtime. It's a work hard, save everything strategy that can bankroll your whole year with just one summer. If you want this to work for you, timing is everything. Right now, most summer contracts for 2026 are being signed between February and April. If you're searching for these jobs, start with sites like Cool Works or visit the official eFoods careers page. The real secret? Look for jobs that say room and board provided. Some places might ask for a small fee for meals, but a lot of the top fisheries still include both food and housing at no charge. If you're ready to exchange a few months of hard work for a chance at a year's worth of financial freedom, this is easily the most realistic way to move to Alaska with almost no money. I've got a list of 2026 companies offering free housing. Leave a comment if you want it. Now, hack number 3, the state-level pay raise. Let's cover Alaska's most famous perk, the Permanent Fund Dividend, or PFD. If you've spent any time searching for how to get paid to live in Alaska in 2026, this is what you mean. Here's the real story. The governor wants a full statutory dividend this year, which could be $3,800, but lawmakers usually approve a lower amount. Last year it was $1,000. Here's what most people don't mention: the family multiplier. In Alaska, every person gets their own PFD check, including kids. So if you have a family of 4, even in a low payout year, you're looking at $4,000 deposited into your bank account each October. That's about 3 months of rent, just handed to you by the state. But honestly, the PFD is just the start. The real benefit for most people is Alaska's no tax trifecta. No state income tax, no statewide sales tax, no property tax if you qualify. In 2026, most Americans lose 5% to 10% of every paycheck to state taxes. In Alaska, none. You keep every dollar you earn. For sales tax, Alaska has no statewide sales tax. Some towns have a small local tax, but for big-ticket items like electronics or gear, you pay what's on the price tag. There's talk about a temporary summer sales tax in 2026 to help the budget, but even if they pass it, it's aimed at tourists, winter, and essentials. Still tax-free. If you're thinking about buying land, here's another upside: the senior and veteran tax break. If you're a veteran with a 100% disability rating, or you're over 65, Alaska lets you exempt the first $150,000 of your home's value from property taxes. So if you buy a small cabin or build a home worth $150,000, your property tax bill could be zero. Add it all together: no income tax, no sales tax, and maybe no property tax, and you've got a standard of living you just can't find in the lower 48. Here's the catch: you don't get the PFD right when you move. To qualify for the 2027 payout, you must be a resident for the entire calendar year of 2026. That means you need to be physically in Alaska and planning to stay by January 1st. The best strategy? Use those seasonal jobs to get through your first year. Take advantage of the free housing and meals, and make it until you're officially a resident. Once you're in, Alaska starts to work for you. I've included the 2026 PFD eligibility checklist in the description. Don't forget to file on time. Hack number 4, the real homesteading loophole. The old federal homesteading program ended in 1986, but that doesn't mean you can't land your own spot in Alaska for next to nothing. You're not searching for free land. You want Alaska's state land auctions and over-the-counter sales. This is about as close as it gets to modern homesteading in the U.S. Each year, the Department of Natural Resources and the Mental Health Trust Office open up surveyed land for the public. In 2026, Alaska still has huge stretches of untouched land, just waiting out there. Here's the move. Look at the OTC list. That's what the savvy buyers do. Any land that doesn't get picked up during auctions gets moved straight into this over-the-counter category. In 2026, you can grab these parcels for a set price, first come, first served. Why is it such a good deal? Because the state offers low-interest land financing. You skip the whole bank process. Banks usually don't even want to lend for raw land. With Alaska's deal, you can secure a multi-acre lot with just $500 to $2,000 down. Picture this. Save 1 month's rent in the lower 48, and you could actually own a slice of Alaska by next month. If you're a veteran, this is huge. The Alaska Native Vietnam-era Veterans Land Allotment Program just got extended to December 2030. If you qualify, or you're an heir, you can apply for up to 160 acres free. That's right, free land. And in 2026, millions more acres in the National Wildlife Refuge System just opened up for selection. It's a massive opportunity to claim land that was promised decades ago. Even if you're not a vet, knowing about this program helps you see where new off-grid communities are starting up. But be careful, CHEP land comes with its own challenges. In 2026, a lot of these parcels are only accessible by plane, or you have to wait until winter when the ground is frozen. Buy a lot in July. You might not set foot on it until January, when you can finally drive in. If you want to move in with almost no money, look for subdivided state land near real towns. Think Glen Olin, Delta Junction, or the Matsu Valley. These tips get you through the door, but once you're in Alaska, it's not all one big frontier. It splits into 5 completely different financial worlds. One town has rents like it's the 1990s, and the next town over, a studio costs more than a Phoenix penthouse. Pick the wrong spot, and your dream of living free turns into a money drain. Let's talk real numbers in the 5 towns that could make or break you in 2026. First up, Anchorage. If you look up average rent in Anchorage, get ready, it might surprise you. Anchorage is Alaska's core. Half the state's population lives there or nearby. That kind of population brings a strange mix. You get more jobs, better grocery stores, real hospitals. It's comfortable, familiar, but it also means finding a place to live is hard. Forget endless wilderness. Anchorage is boxed in by mountains and ocean. Not much space, so rent stays high. Here's what you're looking at in 2026. A 1-bedroom in a decent area will cost you $1,200 to $1,600 a month. Want a 2-bedroom? Plan on $1,500 to $2,000 for people moving from LA, Seattle, or Denver. That might not sound bad, maybe even a deal. This is where things get interesting up north. In the lower 48, your utility bill is just an afterthought. In Anchorage, it's a headline. Heating your home through the depths of winter can add hundreds to your monthly expenses, all depending on your insulation and what kind of fuel you're using. Find a cheap apartment with leaky windows. You're not saving money. You're just handing that savings to the utility company instead of your landlord. If you're imagining Alaska because you think rent in Anchorage will be half of what you'd pay in Seattle or Denver, you're in for a surprise. Sure, skipping the state income tax is a win, and that annual dividend is a nice bonus. But Anchorage follows the same supply and demand logic as any large American city. You pay for the perks, being minutes from a Target or Starbucks and still seeing a moose in your yard. Before you sign a lease, you have to ask yourself, do you want city convenience, or do you want breathing room in your budget? Anchorage gives you urban amenities and a reliable job market, but don't count on the rock-bottom cost of living that people picture when they think of the last frontier. It's a comfortable middle ground, and in Alaska, comfort always has a cost. If you're arriving with limited funds, you need to be savvy. Look for rare places with utilities included, or find a roommate to split that $2,000 winter bill. Anchorage offers opportunity, but it can drain your savings faster than the sun disappears in December. If you're ready to leave the highways and big box stores behind, and you're willing to travel 350 miles north to the interior, the numbers are different. That's where Fairbanks comes in. The cold is something else entirely. Fairbanks isn't Anchorage. No ocean breezes, no rainy streets like Juneau. It's colder, harsher, and honestly more upfront about what Alaska truly is. If Anchorage is Alaska 101, Fairbanks is the upper-level course. Search for cheapest places to live in Alaska, and Fairbanks always comes up first. As of February 2026, you'll spot one-bedroom apartments in the $900 $1,300 range. Two bedrooms go for $1,200 $1,700. On paper, that's a bargain compared to Anchorage, but here's the twist. Fairbanks winters are brutal. While Anchorage stays relatively mild, Fairbanks is locked into deep freeze for months. -30 isn't unusual, it's just another January day. That's when the real rent appears. Heat. From November through April, heating costs in Fairbanks are among the highest in the nation. In 2026, many renters see energy bills hit $550 or more a month. Add that to your $1,300 rent, and suddenly you're over $1,800 for shelter and warmth. The cheap rent isn't so cheap after all. Fairbanks attracts a certain kind of person, military families from Fort Wainwright and Eielson, university staff, and students. People who don't just talk about living in the Arctic, they actually do it. It's rougher than southern Alaska, less crowded, and sometimes more affordably if you know where to look. It doesn't try to be easy. It's for those seeking the real Alaska, northern lights filling the sky. Frost forming on your windows, neighbors lending a hand, because at 40 below, a dead battery is a genuine crisis. If you can handle the cold, you'll find a community that's closer and more welcoming than almost anywhere else. But if you're moving to Fairbanks on a tight budget, choosing the right building is everything. In 2026, your best option might be a dry cabin, mall, rustic, and without indoor plumbing. Rent can drop below $800, but you trade a flush toilet for financial freedom. If you're not ready to haul water in a snowstorm, or you want modern comforts for less, you'll need to look south to the valley nestled between the mountains and the city. You're getting closer to the Matanuska-Susitna Valley. But let's pause for a moment and talk about Kenai, the unpredictable player that always keeps you on your toes. If you're just chasing the lowest rent in Alaska, look no further than the Kenai Peninsula. As of February 2026, Kenai officially claims the title of cheapest rental market in the state. While Anchorage and Juneau keep getting pricier each month, Kenai's rental rates have hardly budged. Imagine this. The average one-bedroom here rents for just $913 per month. That's 44% below the national average. Need a two-bedroom for you and a friend? Expect to pay around $1,100. In a country where $2,000 rent is becoming the norm, Kenai feels like a throwback. But there's a catch, and it all comes down to timing. Kenai's economy revolves around tourism and fishing. The housing market here splits in two. From June to August, the town fills up, affordable rentals disappear as places turn into short-term stays for tourists and fishing crowds. But here's the secret for 2026. If you're coming up here with almost no money, grab a winter lease. All those nice riverfront cabins and apartments, once the tourists leave, they sit empty, and landlords are eager to find vessel sitters. You can often get a place from October to May for a fraction of the summer price. It's probably the easiest way to spend your first Alaskan winter living in a beautiful, fully furnished home for under $1,000, while you wait for your resident status. Still, don't start packing just yet. You have to think about jobs. Unlike Anchorage, with its big and varied job market, Kenai's economy is pretty specialized. If you're not in healthcare, education, or oil and gas, finding a solid year-round job can be tough. Many people juggle multiple seasonal gigs just to get by, and then there's the isolation. Sure, you're only a few hours from Anchorage, but in winter the roads get rough and the town empties out after summer. Kenai is really for people who love the outdoors, don't mind quiet, and want their money to stretch farther than anywhere else in Alaska. It's not glamorous, it's not the capital, but it still has that old-school, affordable Alaska feel most people think has disappeared. It's the perfect spot if you have a plan for when the tourists return in June. Now, about Juneau, the state capital, but not like any other. Juneau is cut off from the rest of Alaska. There are no roads and you have to fly or come by boat. This isolation shapes everything about the economy, and nowhere is it more obvious than in the rental market. If you check out the cost of living in Juneau, you'll probably be surprised. As of February 2026, the average one-bedroom goes for about $1,720 a month. 2 bedrooms, it's common to see them listed for over $2,000. There's hardly any inventory. Vacancy rates are usually under 1%. In Juneau, you're not just looking for an affordable place, you're just hoping to find anything at all. Geography rules here. Juneau is squeezed between the Gastano Channel and steep mountains, and there's no flat land left to build on. Add in steady demand from well-paid government workers and the annual wave of tourists, and you get a market that never loosens up. Of course, Juneau is stunning. You might see whales on your way to work, have glaciers in the backyard, and wander through rainforests. But cheap housing, not a chance. In 2026, Juneau stands out as one of the most expensive rental markets in Alaska, especially compared to what people actually earn. Everything in Alaska costs more: milk, heating oil, you name it, because almost everything has to be shipped in. That means just getting by before you even factor in rent is about 30% more expensive than the national average. Here's what most of those Move to Alaska videos forget to mention. Alaska isn't automatically cheap. It's all about trade-offs. Anchorage can cost as much as any mid-sized city. Fairbanks, farther north, has cheaper rent, but the cost to heat your place in winter is enough to make you flinch. Wasilla, out in the suburbs, strikes a balance, but you'll pay for it with long, pricey commutes. And then there's Juneau, remote, expensive, and not for anyone in a hurry. So, when you hear someone say they moved to Alaska with hardly any money, don't just ask where they landed, ask what kind of place they're living in. Because in 2026, the folks actually making the zero-cost Alaska dream work aren't living in typical apartments at all. They're doing something different. No landlord, no lease. That's when things start to get interesting. Alaska is a place of extremes, not just with weather, but with the economy, too. In 2026, the people who really thrive here aren't just dreamers. They have in-demand skills and know how to keep their expenses down. The first big winners: remote workers. Over 13% of Alaska's workforce works online. If you're a software developer or digital marketer earning a Seattle salary, maybe $150, but living in Wasilla for $1,200 a month, you're not just scraping by, you're building real wealth. Big city paycheck, small town taxes. Next are the skilled trades. The oil and gas industry is booming again, adding about 1,000 jobs this year. An oil field supervisor in Alaska now averages $160,000 a year. Yes, really. But it's not just oil. Construction and healthcare are quietly keeping the state running too. With an aging population and a worker shortage, Alaska needs plumbers, electricians, nurses, jobs that never really go away. If you can fix a furnace or draw blood, you'll always find work, especially in the interior. Then there are the seasonal workers and military retirees. If you're into fishing, Alaska is still the 21st century gold rush. Commercial fishermen earn around $74,000 a year, and some at-sea jobs pay $40,000 to $50,000 for just a few months of tough, intense work. For veterans, Alaska is a tax haven. There's no state income tax, and with new federal senior deductions in 2026, retired vets could see their take-home pay jump by over $10,000 just by moving north. Add a military pension and the annual dividend check, and you might cover rent before you even pick up a second job. And then come the minimalist, the people who figured out you don't need a 4-bedroom house to be happy. They live in dry cabins in Fairbanks or vans on the Kenai by keeping expenses under $1,000 a month. They use the Alaska Permanent Fund Dividend plus seasonal work to create a life of freedom most people only imagine. In 2026, Alaska rewards those willing to trade status for independence. It works if you arrive with no debt and aren't afraid of hard work. The state will pay you if you have an in-demand skill. Whether you're hauling salmon, drilling for oil, or coding from a cabin, the plan is the same. Get a high-paying job, pick a low-cost place to live. Alaska isn't a charity, it's an opportunity. With the right skills and a solid plan, you can live a life up here most people only see in movies. But you have to take the first step. The links to the 2026 job boards and the stats and auction list. Type I need the links in the comments section. Your journey to the last frontier starts right there. I'll see you in the north.